need to provide some very brief context so the story makes sense. I go to a public university in California. It's part of the UC system. Some UCs like UCLA and Berkeley and Santa Barbara are much bigger, while others like mine are much smaller. Most of the big ones have their own version of what's known as a dedicated tour day, where all the incoming students go to that respective campus to tour it. But really, it's just an excuse for all the current students to throw crazy all-day parties. Berkeley's is called Cal Day, and Santa Barbara's is called Deltopia, just to give a few examples. Now, my campus is about a 2.5-hour drive from Santa Barbara, but it's sometimes customary for students from other campuses to make the drive to bigger schools for that one day. I've never really been one to party like that, so it was never something I did. But a few months ago, I realized it was my senior year and I'd never get the chance to go again. So when they asked me if I wanted to come with them to Santa Barbara's Deltopia, I decided to say screw it and just went. We drove down that Friday afternoon, the day before all the major festivities. The car was completely packed out. Hunter was driving, and the other friends joining us were Damon, Benjamin, and Armand. We're all above 6 feet tall, so the journey was painfully cramped, but it went by quickly with some good conversation and music. Once we got to Isla Vista, we spent the better part of an hour looking for parking with no luck. I'm not exaggerating about the parking situation. That's how popular Deltopia is. Just as we were about to give up, Hunter activated his charm and convinced a sorority girl to let us park in her designated spot. We all got a good chuckle out of that. So everything was going according to plan. Hunter's sister is a junior at UCSB, and she agreed to let us all crash on the floor of her apartment. That might sound a little ratchet to some, but during Deltopia, having a place to sleep is practically a golden ticket. Her and all of her roommates were super chill, so we decided to party with them that night, even though Deltopia technically didn't start until the next morning. There's one more thing I have to mention. Hunter is a really friendly guy, and because of that, a ton of people know him. He has this one friend named Amir who's a little problematic. I'm using the word friend pretty generously here. Amir is one of those guys who clings to social circles without ever really being a part of them. He's insecure, loud, oblivious, constantly seeking validation, and somehow makes every conversation about himself. And before you call me out for gossiping, Amir has done a lot of messed up stuff to my friends and I in the past, so I've earned the right. Amir had mentioned to Hunter a while back that he was also going to Deltopia. There was never any real conversation about where he'd be staying or who he was going with. He wasn't part of our plan, and none of us had brought him up on the drive down. About an hour after the crew settled into Hunter's sister's place, we decided to make an alcohol run for ourselves and her roommates. As the 5 of us were leaving the liquor store with our purchases, who do we see but Amir, just standing there on the curb with his hands in his pockets. No one said anything. We just kept walking towards the apartment, and he sort of fell in step with us like he'd been there the entire time. The first thing out of Amir's mouth once we were a few blocks away from the store was, "Why are you guys so surprised to see me?" Was this kid brain dead? Of course we were surprised to see him. There was never any plan to meet up with Amir, let alone hang out with him. And as far as any of us knew, Hunter hadn't even told him where we were staying. We all kind of ignored him and just kept walking, unsure of how this was going to play out. Things immediately escalated once we got back to the apartment. Amir asked if he could use the bathroom at our apartment, and then ran ahead of us when Hunter reluctantly agreed. When Hunter's sister answered the door, Amir walked right up to her and said, "I'm staying here," before stepping past her without waiting for a response. She obviously didn't know who Amir was, but just assumed he was part of our group. When Hunter realized Amir had lied to his sister, he was livid. I could go into extreme detail about what happened first, but here's all you need to know. Hunter told him straight up he had to leave, that he wasn't welcome there, and that lying to his sister was crossing a line. Amir didn't go quietly. He stood outside the door for another 20 minutes, trying to argue his way back in. Hunter's not the guy you want to mess around with, so Amir eventually took the hint and left. We got wasted after that, and admittedly, Amir was all any of us could talk about. We realized later that night that Hunter had been sharing his iPhone location with Amir, meaning Amir had stalked us to the apartment. But anyway, the next day was a blast. Deltopia certainly lived up to the hype. Most of the shenanigans were done by late afternoon, so we met up with 5 of our other friends, and the 10 of us found ourselves chilling back at Hunter's sister's apartment. We filled the rest of the guys in about the Amir situation, and they found it just as odd as we did. One of our other friends, Rylan, said he was pretty sure he had Amir's location. He immediately checked it, and his jaw actually dropped. He turned the phone towards us, and I swear to God, The little blue dot was showing up basically on top of us. As soon as we mentioned it though, the dot started moving away quickly, like Amir had been spying on us from a car and was now driving away. It was bizarre. Him showing up a second time was borderline psychotic, especially after Hunter had explained to him why he wasn't welcome there. We probably should have taken the whole thing more seriously than we did. That behavior was extreme, even for Amir. Instead, we all just laughed about his weird obsessiveness and continued partying. That night, after we had all crashed, I woke up randomly sometime well after midnight. I barely had time to process my surroundings when I heard glass shattering from somewhere deeper in the apartment. I shot up off the floor, looking around to see if anyone else was awake. No one was, probably because everyone had gone to sleep completely wasted. I realized pretty quickly that no one else had heard it, and if someone had broken in, I was the only one who could do anything about it. I didn't have a weapon or anything, so I just grabbed an empty wine bottle off the floor, took a deep breath, and started creeping toward the noise. My heart was pounding. When I entered the living room, I saw the sliding door that led to the balcony had been completely shattered. A huge rock sat in the middle of the floor, surrounded by glinting shards of glass. I didn't need convincing. I knew Amir was behind it. I went to go wake my friends up, when, out of the corner of my eye, I saw a closet door handle jiggle a little. I froze, more scared than I had been just moments before. I didn't think Amir had the guts to go beyond destroying property, and the thought that he had broken into the apartment terrified me. I was just about to yank the closet door open, when my better judgment forced me not to. Instead, I snuck back to the bedroom, woke Hunter up, and told him to back me up. The two of us walked towards the living room, but by the time we got there, the closet door was wide open. I looked around frantically, but I didn't see him. That's when Hunter reached into the closet and pulled out this massive kitchen knife. I stared in shock. Amir had literally been standing behind the door with a knife, probably intending to injure me. He could have literally ended my life had I opened that closet door. That was the most horrifying moment of my life. Hunter and I woke the rest of the house up, and we did a sweep to be 100% sure that Amir was nowhere in the apartment. We obviously got the police involved, but all that really came of that was just getting a police report. They told us property tends to get destroyed during Deltopia, and we were one of the many victims. Before you ask, Amir had stopped sharing his location with Rylan, so we couldn't even show the police that. We had to leave the next morning. Hunter was freaked out about leaving his sister and her roommates there, especially knowing that Amir had managed to sneak in there once already. Before we got in the car, he pulled out his phone and typed out this massive paragraph to Amir. I'm not going to air it out here, but you can guess what was said. The message never delivered though. Amir had already blocked him. We all pulled out our phones and realized we had all been blocked too. Over the next few weeks, none of us heard from him. It was like he had fallen off the map completely. I still can't wrap my head around all of this. As aggressive as Amir often pretends to be, he doesn't have a history of violence. In fact, I've always thought of him as a little passive. He knows where all of us live, so I'm still worried, even while writing this out, that he's gonna do something drastic. I'll send an update should something happen.
We got warned before we even reached the campsite, not in some dramatic way, just an old man at a roadside store near the desert looking at the four of us like he already knew we wouldn't listen. Don't stay out there after dark, he said. Ryan laughed. Why? Snakes? The old man didn't smile. The desert has old things in it. If the wind starts talking, don't answer. That should have unsettled us more than it did, but it was just a camping trip. Me, Ethan, Claire, and Ryan. One SUV, 2 nights in the desert, and a plan to relax and get away from everything. At first, it was perfect. Endless sand, distant rocks, dry heat, and a sky so wide it made you feel small. No traffic, no signal, just silence. Claire said silence is nice until it starts feeling like something. We laughed. A few hours later, the SUV died. No warning. The engine just cut out and we rolled to a stop in the middle of nowhere. Ethan tried starting it again. Nothing. He checked under the hood, then admitted he had no idea what was wrong. No signal on our phones. The road behind us was too far to reach before dark, so we camped beside the SUV. That was when everything changed. The moment the sun went down, The air turned cold, and the silence got heavier. It didn't feel peaceful anymore. It felt like something was there with us. Claire heard it first. Did you hear that? At first, just wind. Then it came again. A whisper. Soft. Dry. Almost nothing. It sounded like wind, but it had rhythm, like someone speaking just out of reach. Ryan gave a nervous laugh. Haunted wind, but none of us joined in, because we'd all heard it. That night, none of us slept properly. The whispering kept coming back, moving around us. Sometimes far, sometimes so close it felt like someone was right beside me. Every time I sat up, it stopped. Morning didn't help. One of our water containers had been moved. Claire found her backpack unzipped, everything inside laid out neatly on the ground in a straight line. None of us admitted doing it. By then, we were tense. Ethan kept trying to fix the SUV. Ryan searched for signal. Claire barely spoke. I just felt like something was watching us from beyond the dunes. That evening, the whispering came back earlier and louder. Claire froze. It said my name. Ryan shook his head. Then the wind passed me, cold and sharp, and I heard it too. My name. Breathed. I turned. Nothing there. That was when Ethan snapped. He grabbed a flashlight and said we were scaring ourselves. Claire told him not to go. He walked off anyway. We watched his light move farther away, until it stopped. Then we heard him scream. Just once. We ran toward it. His flashlight was on the ground. Ethan was gone. No footprints, no struggle. Just empty sand. Claire started crying. Ryan kept saying, "That's impossible." But out there, that didn't matter. The next day broke us. Ryan started hearing voices even when the wind was still. Claire refused to leave the tent. I kept seeing something move in the distance, something pale shifting behind the dunes, but whenever I looked directly, there was nothing there. That night, Claire disappeared. No sound. One moment she was in the tent, the next she was gone. Her sleeping bag was still warm. Ryan lost it after that. He stood in the dark, shouting at the wind. Then suddenly he stopped. He tilted his head like he was listening. Then he smiled. That was the worst part. Not because it looked evil, because it didn't look like Ryan anymore. It looked like something wearing him. He turned and walked into the darkness. I never saw him again. By morning, I was alone. The SUV still wouldn't start. The campsite looked untouched, like the desert had taken the people and left everything else behind. I grabbed water and started walking at sunrise. Hours later, I found the road. A truck picked me up before sunset. Search teams went back. They found the campsite, the SUV, our supplies, but they never found Ethan, Claire, or Ryan. Not a trace. That should have been the end of it. But sometimes, late at night, when the room is quiet and the air makes that dry sound, I hear it again, the whispering. Only now it's clearer, and it doesn't call my name anymore. Now it calls me Guardian. I wasn't supposed to stop there. That's the part that stays with me. If I had just driven another hour, just pushed through the exhaustion, I would have made it somewhere normal, somewhere real. But I didn't. I saw the sign, vacancy, and I pulled in. The motel looked ordinary. Too ordinary. Faded walls, flickering lights. 6 rooms lined up like they'd been waiting a long time. I got room 3. The man at the desk barely looked at me, just slid the key across and said, "You'll sleep well here." Not, "Hope you sleep well." Not, "Have a good night." A promise. The room was simple. Floral bedspread, a small lamp, a soft, forgettable painting on the wall. I locked the door, dropped my bag, lay down. and I slept almost instantly. I dreamed I was still in the room. Same bed, same light. But someone was standing near the bathroom, watching me. I couldn't see their face. Every time I tried, it blurred, like it wasn't meant to be seen. Then, it leaned closer, and I woke up. Morning light. Quiet. Still. Everything looked normal, except the painting. It wasn't the same. Now it was a portrait of a woman. Dark hair, expressionless. I stared at it for a long time. I knew it had changed, but the longer I looked, the more it felt like it had always been there. Like my memory was the thing that was wrong. I should have left. I didn't. That night, I paid attention. Memorized everything. Blue bedspread, white flowers, my bag on the chair. I even took a photo. Proof. I dreamed again. Same room, but this time, the figure stood at the foot of the bed. Closer. Watching. Learning. I woke up in the dark. Something felt off. I turned on the lamp. The bedspread was different, yellow, striped, old. I grabbed my phone. The photo still showed blue flowers. My chest tightened. Then I looked at the chair. My bag was gone. In its place, a worn suitcase. Not mine. The door was still locked. Windows sealed. No one had come in. But the room was changing. I didn't sleep after that. Around 3 a.m., I heard movement. Inside the room, soft, dragging, from the bathroom. I forced myself to look. Opened the door. Empty. But the mirror, that's where everything broke, because the reflection wasn't my room. Different walls. Different bed. And, behind me, someone standing there. It had my face. I ran. Straight out to the front office. The man was still there, smiling. The building remembers, he said softly. It keeps what it likes. What does it do with them? I asked. He smiled, wider. Reuses them. Outside, the night guard stood frozen, staring at my room. I saw someone inside, he said. That was me, I told him. He shook his head. No, he whispered. You were standing out here. We both looked. Through the curtain, someone stood inside room 3, perfectly still, watching us. It lifted its hand and waved, exactly like me. The guard stepped back, voice shaking. There's something impossible inside that building. I left. Drove until sunrise. Didn't stop. Didn't look back. 3 days later, I checked into a hotel in the city. Bright, busy, safe, or so I thought. I sat on the bed and froze because the bedspread was blue, with small white flowers. I turned slowly toward the mirror, and for just a second, my reflection didn't move. It just stood there, smiling, waiting.